Welcome to the Writer's Journey podcast. I'm Michael Laran, a science fiction and fantasy author on a journey to go from nobody to bestseller, and I'm documenting every step of the way. Tune in every week as I pull back the curtain on my writing life and how I'm building a writing career while working a full-time job, raising a family, and attending law school classes in the evenings. You can find show notes for this week's episode, a free starter library of my fiction, and much more at michaellaran.com. Hello and welcome to episode 138. 138 is a good number, and I've titled this episode Beast Mode equals off, Amnesia Mode equals on. Beast Mode Diaries Week 13. Wow, did I butcher that title? Amnesia Mode. I gotta say that right. Amnesia. What the hell is that? Fair warning, you're probably gonna hear my daughter upstairs. She's doing some extracurricular activities after school, and so that's just how things go when you work from home and podcast from home. So real quick, announcements. Some really important announcements. First things first, my last Beast Mode book is now available, and it is the Indie Author Atlas, your guide to the 5 continents of the writing world. So I took all the things that writers need to learn in the beginning of their careers, such as craft and marketing and business, and I broke those into subtasks. And I turned each of those subtasks into a hot vacation destination. So the book reads like a Lonely Planet travel guide, and it's illustrated. It's got beautiful illustrations. So you can get your copy of the Indie Author Atlas if you want to learn the roadmap, the passport, the travel guide to learning everything you need to learn as a writer at authorlevelup.com/atlas. That's authorlevelup.com/atlas. Now, because I did publish the last Beast Mode book, I promised for a while that I was going to collect all of the Beast Mode books into one book for everyone's convenience. And I am calling it the Beast Mode Collection. 7 writing books in one. And you can get that at authorlevelup.com/beastmode. Now, here's the catch with this. First things first, it's only available for a limited time only. It's only available until Saturday, November 14th at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. And it is only available on Kobo, Google Play, and my own personal website. All right, I'll talk more about that in a minute. The reason for that is Amazon is just, I'm not gonna, the book costs $34.99. I'm not going to put a $34.99 book on Amazon and hemorrhage money because I'm only going to get a 35% royalty. I love you guys, but there's only a limit to what I can do in terms of pricing and smart business strategy. So Kobo and Google Play don't have those caps. Apple doesn't allow you to price anything over $29.99, unfortunately, if you go through a distributor. So those are the 3 places you can get Beast Mode Collection. If you can't do that, otherwise you can purchase all of them individually or purchase the ones individually that matter most to you. But there's a kicker. There's another thing I'm going to be offering. Anyone who buys directly from my site will be entered into a drawing where I'm giving away a free 30-minute consultation with me to 2 lucky people. Now, this is backed by popular demand. I did this last year, and several people over the course of the year have asked me if I was going to do it again. And you guys know I don't hold myself out as a coach. I'm not a guru. I really just like to hold this to get to know you. And if there's any way that I can help you on your journey, then I can do that. I can answer any questions you might have. You can pick my brain about anything you want. It's all about you and how I can help support you on your author journey. So if you buy from me directly, your email automatically gets entered into the giveaway. Giveaway winners will be notified on or about November 15th. All right. Now, win for the week. You've mentioned, you probably heard, you're selling books on your site, Michael. What's going on here? Well, I implemented a direct sales storefront onto authorlevelup.com. So this has been on my hit list for, I don't know, probably the last 3 years. I used to, so my relationship with direct sales has been complicated. So I originally used to use a service called Sells.com, and they were fine. That's when I first started off. There was no problem with sales whatsoever, but they got rid of their free plan and switched to a paid plan. I just wasn't selling enough at the time to do that. And the functionality at that point, it was around 2014. direct sales was a bit lacking. And so then I switched to Gumroad. And I liked Gumroad for a little while until I really started to figure out that Gumroad was not for me. There's nothing wrong with it, but the implementation of Gumroad is not very helpful to me. And I just don't think that the buying experience is very good, personally. So I've now switched to PayHip. And I saw someone use PayHip on their website. I think it might have been Joanna Penn. I saw a few other people have it as well, and it's phenomenal. I mean, it's awesome. It is so easy to use and implement, and literally all you do is click, and then a shopping cart appears on the reader screen. It is effortless, and they have a free plan. So if anyone's interested in implementing direct sales and you haven't, it's super easy to use. So I got all of my nonfiction self-help books on Author Level Up loaded into this, and now all of the books on the site have a button that says buy directly from Michael. And if you click that button, it automatically adds everything to the shopping cart where you can check out right away. If you want to keep shopping, you can do that. And it also gives me the ability to add coupon codes. So to celebrate my new direct sales implementation, anyone who uses the code TrueFan2020, that's TrueFan2020, you'll get 10% off any purchase on authorlevelup.com through the end of 2020. All right, and that includes the Beast Mode collection. So that's my thank you to everybody, and certainly use it if you see fit. If there's some writing books that you've wanted for a while and you're good with loading things directly onto your device, using BookFunnel, which I'm sure everybody here knows what BookFunnel is, then it makes it pretty easy. So that is a big win for me this week. That gives me some feature capabilities and some things to do that I've always wanted to do, but are really, really hard at my level. Namely, running sales. I don't run sales that much. And the reason I haven't run them is because I'm so prone to make... I'm not a sloppy person. I'm a very detail-oriented person. But every time I run a sale, it seems like there's always something that goes wrong, and I don't like going in and editing prices for books that often because it's just problems with it. Now, I know that limits sometimes my sales potential, but with direct sales, I can give coupon codes, I can run discounts, and I only have one place where I need to change things. So if you see me start to run sales in the future, it's probably going to be through my direct sales. Now, it's not to say that I won't try for a BookBub or things like that, but it's really got to have a chance at me making some money for me to do it. Because one time I ran a sale, and I'm embarrassed to admit this, but transparency. I had a sale, and it was on Amazon, and I changed the royalty to changed the price to 99 cents, and then I clicked the 35% button. Well, when I changed the price back to $4.99 on whatever book it was, I forgot to click the 70% royalty button. I know everybody has done this. This is like a rite of passage, but I did it, and I didn't notice it because at this time I wasn't looking at my sales. I mean, I didn't have any way to track them meaningfully, and I lost like $1,000. It was like, oh my God, no, I'm not touching this again until I have a handle on it. So that's kind of why I'm a little gun shy about sales. But anyway, that's my problem. That's not your problem. Anyway, lesson learned this week. I've been looking at a tool called Zapier for automation. Now, some of you may have heard of Zapier, and it's not anything new. It's really not new to me, but I just didn't really understand it in prior years. And what Zapier does is it connects the web services that you use on a daily basis to each other so that you can automate tasks. So let me give you an example. Every month I get receipts from places where I buy stuff. Like if I hire an editor, my editor sends me a PayPal receipt, right? What I do today is I take those receipts manually, and I take the amounts and I put them into a spreadsheet, and it's like a master spreadsheet that tallies up all my expenses for the year and so on and so forth. And it helps me keep track of how much I'm spending where, so on and so forth. What Zapier can do is it can take the receipts from Gmail, it can parse them out and basically take the email and chop it up into different fields. So price is one field, who gets paid is another field, date is another field, and then it can transport those data fields onto a Google Sheet. So what I could potentially do with this tool is I could automate all of my bookkeeping. So every time I have a purchase, Zapier can take it from Gmail and then connect it to Google Sheets, and then I don't have to do any of that manual transportation. There's other things you can do too. A lot of people use it for marketing, like if you have direct sales, for example, it'll automatically add the person's email address to your email sequence without you having to do it. There's other things where it can automatically add tasks to things like Slack and Asana, and it's almost like a Swiss Army knife. And I think I'm to the point where I can start justifying the cost. I think it costs about $240 a year for the starter plan, and I think I can justify the cost, and I think I can use it in a way to help me minimize my clerical work, like the bookkeeping and all that stuff, because that's one of the things that holds me back. So exploring that has been my lesson learned. If you're interested, check it out. Zapier is spelled Zapier. Maybe some of the things I've said can inspire you to automate some elements of your writing business. Now, idea of the week. This is kind of a fun little idea. I've seen people do this from time to time, but I kind of had a different twist on it. So maybe you've heard of the idea of a typo bounty hunter. I was getting ready for a podcast interview, and someone, I think it was in an email back and forth, this came up for some reason, typo bounty hunter. So it's when an author maybe they didn't get their book edited, or maybe there's typos and they know it. So what they do is they hire their readers and they say, for every typo you find, I'll pay you $1 or $2 or whatever. And there's usually a cap, right? So the readers go off and they find it and say, here's my bounty. Please pay me, please. So the reader gets paid, you get to typo, so on and so forth. It's kind of an interesting dynamic, although not really needed if you hire a good editor and a proofreader. But, hey, everybody does what they need to do, right? So I was thinking, that's a great idea, just in general. I do think you can overpay your readers to do something like that. But, it's a good idea. But what if there was a service that was like a quality bounty hunter? So we'll audit your platform, and every mistake that we find on your website, like maybe you have an Amazon link, but it goes to Kobo, or maybe the Amazon link goes to the wrong book, or maybe it's inactive, or maybe your book cover on one page is broken, that sort of thing. We'll audit your entire platform, and you don't pay us unless we find something wrong. It goes into this idea of a quality audit, and it's not You're probably thinking, why would you want to do that? Well, it's interesting. When you only have one or two books, it doesn't really matter because you can police that stuff yourself. When you're like me and you have 50 books in 2 websites, in 3 podcasts, in a YouTube channel, it's really easy for stuff to fall through the cracks. And so, the idea of a quality bounty hunter is really, really interesting because they get paid if they find problems, and you win at the end of the day for any problems that they find, because it might just save you money. It's an interesting idea. It's not something I would do, but it's just an idea I had in my head as I was working through this podcast interview. All right. So topic of the week. All right, let's get into the stuff here. This is an important topic. Gonna have a lot to talk about. So first things first, I wanted to talk about the final lessons I learned from Beast Mode. I wanted to talk about how many books I wrote, which books I published, and then what my next challenge is going to be. And this one has me shaking in my boots a little bit. Has nothing to do with writing, by the way. So I have to do challenges. This is how I stay engaged. It keeps me on fire. I've just only lately started talking about the challenges that I'm doing. I'm always doing some sort of challenge. So, why not bring you guys along for the ride? So I wanted to do a quick debrief. So for those of you who haven't been listening for the last 13 months, I said I was going to go into beast mode because I need to write some books this year. I need to publish some books so I can make a little bit more money. That's the life of a writer, right? And so from August 1st through October 31st, I said I was going to write as many words as humanly possible. And it's also a way for me to show everybody who follows me that I'm not just somebody that says to do stuff, that I actually live my own advice. And so I wrote between August 1st through October 31st 220,000 words total. That's about 250,000 words. It ended up being about 73,000 words per month. August was my best month. I wrote over 100,000 words in August alone. And I wrote 7 books, or I published 7 books. So I stood up a new property, Indie Author Confidential, which is kind of like the writer's journey, the book edition, where it talks about lessons learned, ideas that I've learned in my journey as a writer, just sharing it transparently. So I wrote 2 volumes in that. I wrote 250 plus writing tips, which is a new series that I've started from my writing, which is Writing Tip of the Day, the book edition, my other podcast, Writing Tip of the Day. And that's over 250 writing tips for writers across all the different elements of the writing spectrum. So writing, marketing, business, so on and so forth. I wrote a book called The Author Income Problem that tackled the sales report database thing that I've been talking about for the last several months. So I finally codified that into a book. That's some thought leadership. I wrote a book called The Reader's Bill of Rights, which was just a book that was on my heart about how to treat your readers. I also wrote a book called The Indie Author Atlas, which I described. I won't go into that any further. I wrote a book called The Indie Author Bestiary, which it kind of takes all of the emotional challenges that a writer faces and it turns them into monsters. And then it teaches you how to slay those monsters. Right. And then I have my Beast Mode collection. I think that's 7 books. I might have missed one, but if I did, I'm sorry. Apologies to the book. But 7 books total published. They were all nonfiction self-help books. I did start a novel near the end of Beast Mode. I didn't get that far into finishing it. That was my Good Necromancer series, book 2. But I did start a novel. This wasn't all just nonfiction. And then I have 2 other books that I'm in the process of that I started in the process of Beast Mode as well. So volume 3 of Indie Author Confidential, that's going to come out sometime in November. I started that, and then the Good Necromancer book 2. So write as many books and as many words as humanly possible. I think I did that. I think it was a success. And there were a lot of things that I learned, a lot of things that were very helpful for me, that may be helpful for you. The first thing I learned is that I can turn on my production whenever I need to. If I need to write a book, I just turn it on. I have no problems with that. And I wrote more books in 90 days than some authors do in 1 or 2 years. And that is a strength. And that is the result of investing in the right tools, mastering those tools, and learning how to write in ways that seemed foreign to other people. So a lot of the words that I wrote during Beast Mode came from my phone. And so there was a direct result of mastering that and eliminating a lot of those emotional roadblocks. So that for me, anything was possible. If I'd started at the beginning of my career, there's no way I could have done this. But now that I've got a few books under my belt, it's kind of not my first time at the rodeo. I kind of surprised myself. I didn't know how many books I would write, and I was really proud of that. I also learned that Beast Mode has consequences. I think we all have times in books where we sit down and we write, and the first thing we focus on is the book, and then other things get neglected. So you could be at the end of a book and you're just racing to the finish line, and then lo and behold, things start falling through the cracks. Like when I was doing Beast Mode, I really didn't do any marketing. So, usually I put some time in every month into marketing. I didn't do that. And so I had very real consequences about that. My email inbox got out of control to the point where I was possibly missing out on opportunities. My response rate was a bit low, or a bit long. And that was a consequence of doing a challenge like this. And so I have to remember that as I move forward, especially as I'm going into this new challenge, that I need to be a bit more balanced in how I approach things. And I think that's something we can all learn from. When you're not a full-time writer, you only have so much time in the day, and you have to make priorities, and you have to make some hard decisions sometimes on, are you going to write today, or are you going to handle something with marketing today? Sometimes that's your choice. And so I had to make those choices a lot on a daily basis, which really helped put me in touch with what my key priorities are. Now, another thing I learned, and I really enjoyed this part of it, was that all of you really enjoyed following along. So I get emails every day from folks saying, hey, I really loved your blog posts. I really loved the live streams that you did. And so that was a great affirmation for me that this was a great idea. When I do things, I just kind of do them. I don't know what's going to resonate. I don't know what people are going to like sometimes because it's really just kind of doing the things that I enjoy. And the fact that you all enjoyed it, that was very helpful for me. And it gave me some clues about how I need to be thinking about my content moving forward so that I can stay in contact with all of you and continue making content that you're going to enjoy. Because I feel like I have to earn your listen every week. There are so many other podcasts that you could listen to, so many other blogs, so many other YouTube channels. And so the fact that this was engaging for many of you was really cool. And the live streams that I did, the response was so overwhelmingly positive on that we're going monthly on those now. So every month I'm going to have a live stream where we're going to do a writing session. And I just had my past one this past Saturday. 74 people tuned in. And we wrote about 16,000 words collectively. And even in the chat, there were some folks who formed their own writing group in the middle of that. And that kind of stuff is just amazing. And so I'm going to continue doing those. I will continue blogging. Some folks were a little bit worried that I would stop doing that. But I am going to continue sharing all the things that I'm learning and doing on a daily basis so that maybe some folks can learn from that. So that's what I learned. That was Beast Mode. And, at some point next year, I'll probably do another Beast Mode, and that'll probably be fiction focused. And that's great. And I'm at a point now where I'm kind of debriefing. Next week, there's going to be a video on my YouTube channel where I take all of you guys on the road with me to St. Louis so that you could see how I write while I was on the road. So that'll be kind of a fun video. My editor's working on that right now. But now I've got to start thinking about the next thing. And the next thing is a direct consequence of Beast Mode. So I mentioned earlier that I haven't really been able to market lately because I was so focused. Like the beginning of the year, it was pretty balanced. Like the first quarter, everything was good. I was just kind of firing on all the things I needed to fire on. And then when the pandemic hit, I focused a lot on infrastructure, sales database, and things like that. Then I focused on Beast Mode. So now, to round out the year, I kind of need to bring everything full circle because this year has kind of been disjointed. So I need to focus on marketing. And this is something I don't do that often because it's really not my wheelhouse. You guys know I'm more of a productivity guy. Where I add the most value is with writing apps, with process and things like that. I'm not really a marketing guy, mainly because I'm not. It's not my passion. And I'm not a full-time writer yet, so this seems a bit disingenuous to say I'm a marketing expert and I can do this and that, and that's just not true. But one of the things I like to do is share the things I'm learning, and so I thought this would be a really interesting way to do that. So I wrote all these books with Beast Mode. I got 7 new books on the market, 2 new series on the market. What do I do with them now? And not to mention, I've got 50 books before this that just kind of sat and there was really nothing going on with them while I was doing this. So this is a great opportunity to start engaging in marketing to goose the sales of my existing catalog and then also start improving the sales of the books that I just published. So here's kind of the idea. So a part of my strategy, I've got 5 strategic focuses, and one of those is that I want to become a world-class marketer. Well, how can I improve that? And I kind of had this idea as I was going to bed the other day that what if I woke up tomorrow and I had no idea who I was? And I realized that I had all these books and I needed to make some money. I fell down and I hit my head. I hit my head on the nightstand and I woke up the next day and who am I? I've got all these books. What? How am I going to continue making money because I got to pay rent, I got to pay my mortgage, I got to pay all these things. And so this whole idea is amnesia mode. What if I had to start all over again? And what if I focused on learning and one new marketing thing every single day this won't be 90 days. This will be through the end of the year. So what if I went into amnesia mode? Kind of interesting. So actually, no, I take that back. It won't be through the end of the year. It'll be through November 1st through January 15th, because I'll wrap it up just before my law school term begins. So this will be more balanced. I'm going to continue writing. I'm not going to stop writing. In fact, I have to make a conscious effort to schedule the writing time, because I can sometimes get carried away with other stuff. So I need to be balanced. I need to keep writing, need to keep my email inbox empty, and I need to basically pretend that I forgot everything I know about marketing. And what would it be like if I reread all the books on my Kindle that are marketing focused with a fresh eye? What would it be like if I went searching as if I was a brand new writer? What do the marketing services and content and advice, what does that look like right now? I mean, I listen to the Sell More Books show, but I've been kind of out of touch with a lot of the marketing stuff, because all of it's kind of the same, to be honest with you, and it's all kind of the same stuff. It's just repackaged. But are there things that I can learn? Are there things like perma-free that I haven't done in years that might bear some fruit now? Things that kind of went out of style that maybe are back in. And so I'm going to focus on doing one key thing every day. And in my marketing strategy, there's only 3 key performance metrics that I follow. And I recognize this is going to get a bit analytical, but I promise I'll explain it. So when I'm marketing, I think about 3 things. What's the revenue and the gross sales, right? In other words, how much money is coming in? Because how much money is coming in is a direct result of the things that I'm doing every day, in terms of, am I doing the right things? Is my messaging on point? Is the packaging of my product correct? Do I have the right price? Those sorts of things. And then the second metric is expenses. So a lot of people will be like, why would you talk about expenses with marketing? Well, the money that's coming in, you have to subtract the money you have to subtract that with the money you're spending. Because if you don't, you can't have a business that's all revenue. You got to have expenses as well. So how do I spend strategically so that I can, in places where it's needed, streamline my expenses? And then how can I make sure that I'm spending things that are going to make me more money when possible, so that the money that comes in, I can keep more of it. See, I consider that a marketing metric. Other people wouldn't. It's technically more of a business metric, but for me, it's not at all about how much money you're making. It's about how much money you're keeping, right? And so then the third performance metric that I like to measure is the profit. How much are you keeping, right? I mean, and then another key point of profit is your tax liability. So expenses has a big impact on how much you keep, but so do the taxes. So how do I limit how much money I'm giving to the government? And how do I make sure I'm not giving them more money than I need to be giving them, right? And that is another important piece. It won't be as important during this amnesia mode, but it is something I'm going to be focusing on. But yeah, so revenue, expenses, and profit. Here's the thing. The more money you make and the more money you keep, that's more money you can invest back into marketing and back into the business. And so I think that is a very important thing to never lose sight of, either all of those 3 things. All right. So I'm stumbling a little bit. So with revenue, expenses, and profit, I've got some tactics that I'd like to implement to impact those metrics by the end of 2020, or January 15th. So as I think about forgetting everything I know about marketing and coming at it with completely fresh eyes, well, I have this new shiny sales database that I can use to do a deep dive into my data. So what will my data tell me as I deep dive into it? Where are the gaps? Where are the opportunities? What are the 20% titles that are driving 80% of my revenue. Right? These are all things that I can, use my database to great effect to do that I wouldn't have been able to do a year ago. Again, how do I reread the marketing books on my Kindle with fresh eyes? Some of them have new editions, so should I buy the new editions and figure that out? How do I grow my Amazon ad imprint? Because that was a major success for me this year. How do I double down on that in these next 30 to 60 days so that I can reap the benefits in 2021? And how do I do that with my 20% titles? Are there some other titles that maybe have some potential and I could throw ads at them? We'll see. Another bright spot for me is audiobooks. So can I record my next audiobook and get that published and allow that to be a revenue source? I might try for a BookBub ad. I don't know if it's going to happen. I think it was Craig Martell. Every time he went for a BookBub, he was like 0 for like 30 or something like that. And then he finally got one. So I don't know. I'll try for BookBub as much as I can, I suppose. And then how do I leverage direct sales to improve my revenue? And that's kind of turning on a sales channel that's always been there, but I haven't done anything with. Perma-free. I have some ideas about taking a few of my fiction series perma-free and then running Amazon ads at them to see what happens. No idea if that'll work, but it's something that worked very, very well for me years ago. In 2015, I had a perma-free series that did very well, and I took it off perma-free, and then it stopped doing well. But so is it worth taking another look at that? Another thing I need to be thinking about, and it's just all ideas that I had over the last 24 hours. I might do more things too. I don't know. At the end of the day, the data is going to tell me what to do. But my copywriting skills, how can I get better at writing better, more magnetic book descriptions? I need to improve that. On my fiction website, I've got a little tool. It's called Book Wizard, and it helps readers find the right book. You can check it out at michaellaron.com/bookwizard. But it's gotten kind of old, and I need to redesign it and revamp it. And I probably need to put Book Wizard on authorlevelup.com now, because I have a lot of self-help books. And one of the things I need to think about as I move into 2021, and this is something everybody needs to think about as your catalog gets bigger. The more books you have, the more choices readers have to make, and it can create analysis paralysis. So your average person on michaellaron.com, before I put Book Wizard in, was like, what the heck? I don't know where to start. This guy writes all sorts of things. He writes science fiction, he writes fantasy, he writes poetry. What do I read? And so I implemented Book Wizard as a way to help get the right book to the right reader at the right time. And so how do I think about that with authorlevelup.com now that I've got over a dozen self-help books for writers, right? And then there's maybe some other things I'll do. I add promos. Kobo's got those promos that they do. Maybe I'll throw some money at those. Robin Reads and Book Barbarian and some of those. I don't know. We'll see. Google Play just launched promo codes. I mean, these are all things I literally wrote down in the last 24 hours. It just came to the top of my head of things I probably could try. Google Play, they're doing 70% royalties now. They're no longer discounting your books, which is amazing. So how do I improve my Google Play audience? I think Google Play is like my number 3, in terms of where I make the money. So what are the opportunities there? I've got a Patreon channel or a Patreon page, and I'm probably due to revamp some of those benefits, because one of the things I wonder is how many people look at my Patreon page and say, I don't know what the value is. I've got amazing patrons, but could I have more, right? I mean, these are all things that I'm just thinking about. But the first things first, my intent is not to monetize my audience with this. My intent is to just look at my platform, figure out where the gaps are, and then do the things that are going to honor my audience while also putting me in a position to make money. That is the ultimate goal of this. And so if anyone's interested, I did put together my 2021 strategy. I'm probably going to do Yeah, I'm debating on whether I'll do this or not. I may do a special episode of the writer's journey. It may be a separate, like a like on a Saturday podcast or something of the writer's journey, where I'm going to talk about my 2021 strategy, and it won't really be about me. It'll just be about some things that I'm thinking about that might inform your own strategy. All right, and I did put together a mind map of my strategy, and anyone who's interested, it is pretty analytical and in depth. So fair warning, but you can check it out at the link in the show notes. In fact, I'll drop a short link. You can check it out at authorlevelup.com/2021 strategy. All right, so that's kind of what I'm thinking as I move into amnesia mode. I don't have very many days left. I've only got like 3 days left now at this point. So I'll just kind of figure it out as I go. I know a lot of you are interested in selling more books and finding ways to do that and finding ways to expand your reach. And what I can at least promise you, I can't promise you that I'm going to make any money, any extra money with this. But what I can promise you is I'm going to try to avoid a lot of the beaten path stuff. You know, you got to have a social media page. No shit. Of course you got to have a social media page. You know, stuff like that. It's like, you know, you see that in a book and it's like, okay, you know, this is stupid. Maybe I'll at least try to commit to finding some things that are that are specific to me, but maybe could apply to you as well. All right, so I've said all I'm going to say about that, other than next week, amnesia mode begins. I hope everybody's having a great 2020, especially my friends here in the United States. Stay safe with all the COVID cases spiking and all that. You know, and the election coming. Just stay safe. Just stay safe, please. And I will plan on talking to you next week. Take care. Thanks for joining me this week. If you enjoyed this episode, you'll enjoy my backlist episodes at michaelaran.com/podcast. For your free starter library of my favorite novels, join my fan club by visiting michaelaran.com/fanclub. If you're a writer and want to connect with me further, check out my YouTube channel, Author Level Up, for helpful writing advice at authorlevelup.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back next week.